Today, we're diving into one of the most controversial laws in recent U.S. history, the Laken Riley Act, recently signed into law by President Donald Trump. This law has sparked heated debates across the country. Some see it as a critical step toward public safety, while others fear it goes too far and threatens civil liberties. So what does this law actually do? And why has it caused such a political firestorm? To understand its full impact, we have to go back to where it all began, with a tragic crime that shook the nation. It was a quiet afternoon on February 22, 2024, when Laken Hope Riley went out for a jog near the University of Georgia campus. She had done this countless times before, but this time she never made it home. Hours later, police found her body in a wooded area near a popular running trail. She had been brutally beaten and left for dead. The suspect, Jose Antonio Ibarra, a Venezuelan national who had entered the U.S. illegally through El Paso, Texas in 2022. Now, here's where it gets even more shocking. Ibarra wasn't just an undocumented immigrant. He had a criminal history in the U.S. Before Laken's murder, he had been arrested multiple times in New York and Georgia for shoplifting, identity fraud, and traffic violations. But every time, he was released before immigration authorities could take him into custody. Why? Because of sanctuary city policies that blocked local police from cooperating with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. For many Americans, this case was the final straw, a painful reminder of what happens when immigration enforcement fails. And just like that, the push for the Laken Riley Act began. The Laken Riley Act was designed to close the loopholes that allowed criminals like Ibarra to stay in the country. Here's what it does. First, it requires ICE to detain any non-citizen who has been arrested, charged, or convicted of certain crimes. At first, lawmakers focused on theft-related crimes, but the bill was later expanded to include assaulting a law enforcement officer, crimes that result in serious injury or death, such as vehicular manslaughter caused by drunk driving. The second major change, it allows individual states to sue the federal government if they believe immigration laws aren't being properly enforced. Essentially, if the federal government fails to detain and deport a criminal non-citizen, states can take them to court. This move was seen as a bold step, one that would hold Washington accountable for keeping American communities safe. But not everyone was on board. Supporters of the law argue that it's long overdue. For them, the Laken Riley case wasn't just a tragedy, it was a wake-up call. A young woman lost her life because of a system that failed to act. And so, they say, this law was needed to stop history from repeating itself. They also argue that sanctuary policies have made it harder for ICE to do its job. If local police can't work with federal immigration officials, criminals like Ibarra slip through the cracks. Finally, supporters say this bill forces the federal government to take immigration enforcement seriously. If Washington won't act, then states should have the power to step in. But not everyone agrees. Critics argue that this law goes too far and could violate constitutional rights. Their biggest concern? Mandatory detention. Under this law, ICE is required to detain non-citizens even if they haven't been convicted, just based on an arrest. For many legal experts, that's a problem. They say it opens the door to wrongful detentions and could violate due process. There's also the issue of overcrowding. ICE facilities are already under strain, and critics worry that mass detentions could make things worse. And then there's the question of racial profiling. By expanding ICE's detention powers, some fear that innocent immigrants, including those with legal status, could be wrongfully targeted. Despite these concerns, the bill made it through Congress. But what really caught people's attention? Trump's boldest move yet, sending criminal non-citizens to Guantanamo Bay. Yes, you heard that right. Alongside the Laken Riley Act, President Trump announced a new immigration policy. Instead of deporting repeat offenders, his administration would send them to Guantanamo Bay, the infamous military detention center in Cuba. Why? According to Trump, many criminals don't stay deported. Some sneak back in over and over again. By holding them at Guantanamo, the administration believes it can keep them away from American communities for good. But the backlash was immediate. Civil rights groups called it inhumane. Immigration lawyers warned that Guantanamo was never designed for this purpose. And legal experts predicted a wave of lawsuits challenging the policy. Despite the criticism, Trump stood firm. He called the plan a necessary step to protect American lives, promising that only the most dangerous criminals would be sent there. But the question remains, will this policy hold up in court? Only time will tell. With the Laken Riley Act now law, America's immigration system is facing a major transformation. For supporters, this is a long overdue fix, one that finally puts American safety first. For opponents, this is a dangerous overreach that could lead to racial profiling, wrongful detentions, and mass incarceration. One thing is certain, this debate is far from over. As lawsuits pile up and policies are tested, the question remains, where does America go from here? If you found value in this video, please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.